Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gaming Mix podcast, your official podcast from analogstickgaming.com. If you don't know us by now, my name is Jordan, one of the co-owners of Analog Stick Gaming. But to my right, as always, we have Jeff, the founder himself. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing pretty decent, actually. Just kind of recovering from all the holidays and all that kind of bullshit. So,
Yeah, because as you can see, this is our end of season, end of year awards episode. We will be bringing you our game of the year and also a bunch of other awards in the episode. But we would have brought you this episode a few weeks earlier. However, we both had illnesses over the kind of holiday period, and then we just couldn't line things up for recording. But in a way, that was a good thing because it actually gave us both a chance to play a lot more video games, right, Jeff?
yeah, I mean, mostly one that
Yeah,
I've
for you.
thinking a
Yeah.
lot of time into. Snuck into my list.
But before we get to games, why don't we have a little sort of holiday season catch up? Were there any nice holiday season gifts that you received?
No, my cat was unfortunately sick. We were dealing with her and some vet bills and stuff like that. So I had to stay home and basically watch her and make sure that she was okay and that this little bugger wasn't getting into trouble. But no,
Yes,
yeah,
we
I didn't
haven't we
really.
haven't seen uh we haven't seen Sugar make an appearance on the podcast for a while.
No, she's sleeping in her little cactus bed right now, so she's doing pretty good. But she's all back to normal, and this guy is
but
growing at an
but
alarming
Banter
rate.
clearly loves the camera because he's always here now.
Yeah, he just likes to be here. Yeah, there you go. You lay down.
Uh, but yeah, I'm kind of similar. Had a fairly quiet, like a nice holiday with family and stuff, but didn't really get much. Got a little bit of money, which I then put straight into the Steam sale and picked up a few games on Steam because I'm still building that library out as I kind of become more and more PC focused. And I almost picked up one game you've been playing a lot. So why don't we have a little discussion about that, Jeff? What is that one game that you've been playing a lot over the Christmas period?
Um, yeah, like I wanted to get into New World in Eternum quite a bit ago, back when it launched, because it just looked fun. It looked like almost like a Kingdoms of Amalur type of MMO. Like it has that kind of appeal. So I picked it up because it was on sale. And yeah, like I've dumped quite a bit of hours. Like I don't even know, probably like 40, 50, 60 hours or something like that into it. I'm like level 63 right now. And I think the max is 65. So I'm like approaching the end, I think, of the main campaign and doing a lot of the dungeons. I haven't done any raids or anything like that. I think the raids are 10 players or something. Um, but yeah, like it's basically almost as if like Kingdoms of Amalur had like an MMO. Like it feels like that. It has that same kind of approach to like combat where it's very almost like arcadey in a lot of ways. Like the one
Oh,
thing I like,
interesting. Okay.
yeah, the one thing I like is like you pick a class at the very beginning, but you're just picking the traits that the class has, because basically what it is that you can pick any weapon and equip any weapon to any class. So like
Wow.
you're not stuck to like just being a ranger. Like you could just like I'm trying to level up and max out every weapon right now. So I'm kind of like rocking like the bow and the great sword, and I love the spear. I've been playing with that a lot. Um, but no, it is really good. Like it's the only reason it's not higher on my list right now is that visually, the people look like they're from the 360 era. Like it doesn't, like the people don't look terribly great, but like everything else does. It's got like a lot of nice color and a lot of nice flora and fauna kind of like occupying the world and the enemies and stuff. And the armor designs look pretty interesting. There's a lot of them. Um, and
Good.
the dungeons are super fun. Like some of them have like raid like mechanics where you have to do certain things and whatnot to traverse. Some of them are more simplified. um you get like it's got a season pass, and it's got like where you can buy mounts and you can buy skins and all that kind of stuff. It's got that kind of marketplace going. Um, but it is. What, what are you doing?
Banter obviously likes the game as well because he's just like, let me talk about the video game.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it is just really fun. Like it has a really satisfying combat loop, like in terms of like what you're doing, and like basically as you use a weapon, you'll level up that weapon, and then you can put that points into different abilities that the weapon can do. And most weapons have about 5 or 6 abilities. And then they have traits attached to those abilities. Like if you do the upward slice with the great sword, you can add a secondary attack to it, so he slams the weapon down afterwards. And then there's other ones where you can, like, some certain attacks will apply grit or bleeding or different types of things and stuff like that. What are you doing? You having fun? Okay. Um, but yeah, like it is just really fun. Like there's tons of little side quests. Most of them are like fetch quests. Go kill this. Go collect this. Go do those types of tasks. But for the most part, like the story is actually pretty interesting. Like basically this like you kind of can become shipwrecked after your ship crashes because you basically pass through this thing called the wall, essentially, which is like something that is like occupying the island around. It's preventing people from leaving or people from entering and stuff like that. And then basically this corruption has taken over this land, and it's all because of this one woman that's kind of like trying to like, you know, achieve her evil deeds. Um, and it's really just satisfying to play.
Good, good.
And
I'm
that's the
glad
one
to hear
thing
it.
that, yeah, like it just plays really good. There's like, again, like visually is the only kind of compromise where I can see where, you know, that they've certainly hit a certain type of budget.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
wish the people just looked better. Like if they ever did like a World of Warcraft where they basically just overhauled all of the visuals and stuff like that for like new consoles and stuff, that would be fantastic. Because like honestly, that's the only drag of this game, is that visually it just doesn't look amazing, especially the people.
yeah. That's a shame because I think the one thing about visuals is, don't get me wrong, you can have different art styles and not everything has to look super realistic and things like that. But I do think we've got to the point now where because games can look so good, when a game looks like it's from 2 generations ago,
Yeah,
in terms of its character models, especially, it really stands out as quite distracting and can take away from an experience, I
yeah.
find.
But that's honestly the only drawback with that game so far that I've played is just that.
Good.
The one thing I
So
like is
you're
that you're
basically saying that I should play this game with you, Jeff.
oh,
That's what you're
it's amazing. The one thing that like that I like is like your attacks aren't attached to your stamina,
saying.
so you can just
That's
keep
really good.
wailing away at your weapons and still have the ability to dodge and stuff. Although if you're wearing heavy gear like I am, you kind of just sidestep. You don't dodge because you're
Interesting.
too
Okay.
heavy.
Interesting.
But no, it's
Oh.
it's fantastic. Like I only bought the base edition of it
Hmm.
just because it was like, I can't remember how much it was, but I think I only paid like $20 because I had like Xbox currencies and all sorts of things left over.
Nice. Nice.
But
Well, at the
yeah,
moment, it's early 2025, as we should probably say Happy New Year to everyone. But with it being early 2025, I have nothing to review right now. So maybe it would be a good time for me to actually pick up this game and play it. So I may well do that. But there is one thing that I've been playing which we'll talk about today, but doesn't count for our game of the year, although many people have been playing it a lot over the last few weeks, and that is Path of Exile 2. Full disclosure, I did receive a code to do some coverage on this game, so I will be writing my first kind of early access review for us on Analog Stick Gaming about this game. But I've put in across sort of put it this way, I got code on PC and I enjoyed it so much, but I did have one or two technical issues, which made me then buy it on console to
Okay.
continue playing it. And I've put in about 40 hours in the 2 weeks that I've been playing it, and it's fantastic. It's everything that I wanted Diablo to be.
Hmm.
Um, and it's yeah, if you like that kind of game, this is phenomenal. Like I'm
How's
surprised it's an early access release.
how's the storage? Because I know in the first game you could barely hold anything without actually spending money.
So you do have so you have 4 pages of stash by default, and then you can buy
I mean on your
additional.
character.
So on the character, I would say it's comparable to
Okay.
something like Diablo 4.
Oh, okay, that's
Uh,
not too bad then. Because yeah, like I know in the original one, like you could barely like hold anything. It
mm,
was such because like I constantly had to go back to town to like
yeah,
um, sell stuff or put it away in
yeah.
um,
I
the
mean, you
storage
certainly
stash.
will find yourself still doing that because you'll just want to do it, but I would say, yeah, the stash size at least. Well, your personal character stash that you can carry with you,
Yeah.
um, from memory, is comparable to Diablo 4. I would say
Okay.
so. It's pretty good, and then there are 6 classes available at the moment, with 6 more to come at some point in the next 12 months.
Okay.
Um, I am currently level 34 or 35, I believe. And like I said, I've played sort of 30 to 40 hours so far. I do like that because it runs off of a Path of Exile account. Uh, I've been able to link my Steam and my Xbox account to it, and it
Nice.
has cross progression, so I can just play on either of those platforms
That's good.
and continue progressing my character. Um, the skill tree is still crazy and big, but it's considerably less overwhelming than the first game.
Yeah, I think I called the first one a skill forest.
Yeah. That's a good way of describing that first game.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely big and still a little bit, it takes a while to wrap your head around, but it's much more manageable than that first game. And the one thing that really has impressed me is the way they've implemented controller on this game. It feels like it was made for controller first
That's good.
and keyboard and mouse second. So I've been really happy with the controller support.
Nice.
So yeah, I would highly recommend it. And I know that some people will think, oh, it's going to be free in 6 to 12 months. And yes, that is true. But in this specific case, I actually think it's worth the price of admission for the early access. It's £25 in Britain. I'm not sure what that works out to in Canada, but I would imagine it's about 30 Canadian dollars if I was to guess.
That's not bad. If it's that, I might actually just pick that up because we just got our GST tax rebates and stuff. So
Nice. Yeah, yeah. I would imagine it works out to about 30 Canadian, but
yeah.
it's certainly not going to be considerably more than that. I wouldn't have thought.
Although I'll be
Um,
borrowing a game that is part of my best games we didn't play. I'll be borrowing that
Interesting.
as of
Okay.
tomorrow. So maybe I'll
Interesting. Gonna
have a
be
play.
interested to hear about that. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to talk about that I won't be talking about later because as we go through our awards, we'll be talking about many, many video games. So why don't we start taking people through some of these categories, Jeff?
Sure. Let me bring this up here. So this is from our official site. The document is in draft right now, and then once this episode is posted, I will be putting this page out here. So we've got a lot of categories. Thankfully, we're not going to just ramble them off 5 at a time. We've got, various celebrities showing up. Obviously, Banter, Sugar might show up as well too. We might have Harrison Ford on stage at some point. But let's get to our first category. Should we almost have a pre-show and do like a couple categories into the pre-show and then
I
start the
mean,
official show?
we're not Jeff Keighley.
Can we get Sydney Goodman? Do you think we can get Sydney Goodman here? No. All right. Okay. Our first category. This one here is up for debate as we didn't share a single title.
And there aren't many that are up for debate this year, so this one's interesting.
Yeah, so all right, so our first category is best indie / small scale game. So the nominees are, I'm gonna burp here. Oh, God, hot chocolate burps, I tell you. All right, so our nominees are Pepper Grinder, Caravan Sandwich, Mullet Mad Jack, Mouthwashing, Gestalt, Steam and Cinder, Balatro, No Rest for the Wicked, Hades 2, Europa, and Kill Knight. So the reason there are so many nominees is because we each nominate 5 releases, and we didn't share any of them. So that's why there's 10.
Which means there were a lot of good indie games this year, can we just say?
Yeah, so I'm going to go through my 5 here. Pepper Grinder is just an incredibly satisfying platformer. It's got like the grinding mechanic where you're basically like drilling through the ground and whatnot. And it's just very fun to play. The bosses are incredibly satisfying. It is just an absolutely fantastic game. You can slow down the grinding as well too in the accessibility options, which helped me defeat the last boss. Just because like how you turn and stuff is a little awkward. And so when you can control the speed at which that works, it allows you to kind of have more handling. And it's fantastic. Caravan Sandwich is just incredibly satisfying. It's just got a beautiful aesthetic. It looks gorgeous for the pixelated kind of world that it is. The story is really interesting. The gameplay is satisfying. Mullet Mad Jack, to me, was my winning choice in this category. It is an incredibly satisfying action game. It has that like each level takes you like 30 seconds, and then you kind of keep killing to build time to keep going. Absolutely fantastic. I think it has a collaboration actually with Kill Knight right now, where you can kill one of the, I think the main character. I think in it. I'm not 100% too sure. Mouthwashing is just an incredibly satisfying little 3-hour experience where you're basically just kind of like existing and surviving aboard a spacecraft that is kind of stranded out in the middle of nowhere, and everybody starts to get like cabin fever, and it starts to get very creepy and weird, and it's just very satisfying. And
just outside of my 5, that one. Just outside.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Gestalt, Steam and Cinder. This is probably one of the most satisfying Metroidvania games I played this year. It's just really good, even with its kind of cliffhanger ending. Absolutely fantastic game. I quite enjoyed it. It's actually the first game by that studio, I believe, and it was co-produced by what is it? Jesse Cox and Dodger. Just fantastic game. So your nominees then.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about them?
Well, obviously my top choice in this category, if I'm not mistaken, because I don't have my actual list in front of me, but it was Balatro.
Yeah, yours went Balatro, No Rest of the Wicked, then Hades, then Europa, then Kill Knight.
Okay. So yeah, so Balatro, and shout out to friend of the show, Naman MBZ, who actually works for Playstack, the publisher of that game, and he helped to discover that game for them. So he is a friend of ours, so take that as you will. But Balatro genuinely is one of the best video games I've played this year, period. And it's a game that, well, I say that, it's actually last year, but it's a game that I will still play now. and I could happily jump onto right now. It's on many, many different platforms, even mobile phones. And it's one of those that you'll lose time to and you don't even realize how long you've been playing it. It's essentially a deck building roguelike game that uses poker as its base for the type of card game that it is. Um, but the thing is, you don't even need to be a fan of poker to actually enjoy it. And then No Rest for the Wicked, I enjoyed. It's kind of like a isometric Souls-like almost, from the team that created the two Ori games, Moon Studios. It's their new IP and it is in early access, so bear that in mind. And it has changed significantly just over this year.
Yeah.
However, it looks great. It has a unique art style. Looks very different to Ori. It's not as vibrant. It's much darker and kind of
Yeah, it's a
more.
good tonal shift so that studio doesn't kind of get like pegged as being the Ori studio. They
Yeah,
have a different look.
absolutely. And also, I just like that they've taken the Souls-like kind of mechanics, if you will, and adapted them into a completely different perspective, because that different perspective makes you play with those mechanics in a different way. And it also has kind of some Metroidvania based stuff in its design, because you will have to kind of wait until you get certain tools before you can then come back and revisit an area
Mm-hmm.
to get to other places. It's a very, very promising game. It is worth playing right now, I would say. The only thing that kind of stopped it from being my top spot in this category is the fact that because it's early access, it's still evolving and changing. So that kind of knocks it a little bit for me. And then we get into the interesting area, because these these next two games especially, I actually couldn't separate really, and it was kind of either of them could be in either place. So obviously, in my 3 points place for this category, we had Hades 2. We all know what Hades is by this point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And Hades 2 is more of the same and probably a little better as well.
Yeah, that added
But
more depth to like how the upgrades kind of work in terms of like
yeah,
just more. But
yeah,
yeah, like I haven't played the newest update, so that's one thing that once I've got time at work, I'll be playing more of it.
yeah. So I do really enjoy it, but, and this is going to sound negative, but it's not. It's just that this is why it's in the middle of the road of this pack for me. And it is the fact that for the most part, Hades 2 is more Hades. And that isn't a bad thing, but to me, when I think about the best indies, it's the games that do something slightly new and slightly more innovative, or something like No Rest for the Wicked, where we see a studio taking on something very different than they've done before.
Well, the thing as well too is like this is the first sequel that Supergiant Games have. That's who makes it, right?
Yes, yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct.
That they've done. They've always
First
done
ever
original
sequel.
games.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
think for them, the early access is finding that groove of where they can be different.
yeah.
So yeah,
And that's why I'm gonna, because I like you haven't played the most recent update, so I am gonna be interested to keep revisiting the game and
yeah,
seeing how it evolves over time. And who knows, by the time that it reaches that 1.0 release, maybe it will be in our kind of top tens on that year, whenever that might be.
yeah.
We'll see what happens. And then next up we have Europa, which is a game that I actually reviewed for the Outer Haven. And the way I would describe Europa is it's kind of like Journey, but a little bit more mechanically involved.
And it's more of like
Bec-
a kind of cartoon platformer glider type of thing and stuff. So it's got that more of like, it doesn't look like an indie game in the same respect of Journey.
yes, yeah. It's I think in the review I said something about it being like Zelda and Journey had a baby, and that is basically what Europa is, because there isn't really combat, but there is a lot of puzzling, and the way you traverse is also very similar to the recent Zelda games. And even the enemies that you come across, the way you deal with them is based on different puzzle mechanics and stuff. Um, so it's a very neat game, but for me, the reason it fell lower in this category again is because I actually think having the enemies in the game took away from the experience.
Mm,
I would have rather it leaned more into being almost like a journey style game with just puzzles,
mm,
because every time I encountered one of these enemies and had to deal with them, it just completely changed the vibe of the game and almost took me out of the experience.
okay.
Because one of the best parts about this video game, Europa, is the visuals combined with the soundtrack of the game in particular. It's like a really relaxing, almost mesmerizing experience as you're traversing through the world. And then you come across an enemy, or one of these enemies shoots a laser at you from miles away, and you're like, oh, here we go again. I have to now find these 3 switches to turn this turret off or whatever. And it's like I was just having a nice little journey through this moon of Europa, trying to, go on my quest to reach where I'm trying to go. And I do think the developers probably kind of had a lot of that feedback, because they actually did do a big update to the game,
Mm,
which now, and I haven't played it since, so I don't know how it functions. But what the update does is there's basically like a Zen mode, and I believe it just removes the enemies entirely,
mm,
and it basically does just make it more like a journey game
that's cool.
with puzzles. So yeah, and then next up, and again, you can speak to this game as well, Jeff, because I
Mm,
know that you played it. But next up for me is Kill Knight, because I really enjoyed what I got to play of the game. It's kind of like a twin stick shooter, where you're kind of going through different levels and things. Uh, Almost like a bullet hell style to it as well, to a certain extent. But because of accessibility reasons, I was not able to play enough of the game, and that's why Jeff actually ended up reviewing it and not me. Um, but we did both enjoy the game, didn't we, Jeff? So,
yeah,
is there anything you'd like to
it's
add about Kill Knight?
it's an incredibly satisfying bullet hell kind of roguelite. It is incredibly challenging. Some areas just get swarmed with enemies, and then you have to kind of balance out like being able to like dash and move and attack and deal with a lot of AoE things that are kind of popping up over the place. Visually it's great, but yeah, like the UI and the font is absolute garbage. It just
Yeah,
makes everything a lot harder to read. Like it's that kind of like blasphemous kind of font, but very tiny. So you're like you don't even know what a weapon's called, because it's like,
yeah,
is it
yeah.
Tyrannotus or like Unitatis? Like you just
Yeah, and to
no
be
idea.
fair to the developer, I was actually communicating with them
Yeah.
during the review period, and they did actually push out a couple of updates which helped to improve things during that time, but it still wasn't quite enough to make the game playable for me, and therefore that's why Jeff took over the review. But yeah, if you play on the default font in this game, have a good luck reading what the text actually says.
I had no idea what some of the weapons were called. I literally had to like look at like weapon guides on like the like the Google and stuff like that to like even figure out what was said.
Yeah.
Like the gameplay itself is fine. It does suffer from some slowdowns on Steam Deck when you're like really in the last area, the areas of it, because like the last area
Yes.
is like kind of like a boss type of thing where like everything's kind of coming at you. But no, super
Yeah.
satisfying game, pretty fun.
Good fun. So yeah, what are we going to be debating here,
So
Jeff?
here's the thing: I'm willing to trade. Um, I am willing to trade the upcoming category of art direction
Hmm.
by conceding to Balatro. And the reason for that is
Okay.
because I'm pretty sure that Balatro is in your top 10.
Hmm.
And none of the games that I have listed in here on my end are in my top 10.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Can you just remind me? Well, can we go through the art direction? We might as well go through those now and then kind of have the debate.
Let me bring up art direction here. Here I'm going to send you yours on the private chat here.
Thank you. Thank you. Just so I know what you're asking me to concede.
All right.
Oh.
So,
Oh.
all right. So here is all right. So the nominees for art direction are Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Unicorn Overlord. Hold on, I gotta bring it up on here just in case I changed anything. Art direction. Heading Out, Neva, Caravan Sandwich, Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Europa, Towerborn, and Dragon Age: The Veilguard. So we'll go through the categories here, or the nominees, and then I'll explain kind of where I'm sitting at with it.
Okay.
Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is probably one of the most visually impressive, aesthetically pleasing games I think I've ever seen. Like when you step into that area, like the blue flowers and stuff like that, it's unlike anything I've ever seen in a video game. There are some experiences
Definitely
here.
a beautiful game. Yeah.
Yeah, there are some experiences here that I think are just stunningly impressive, without being like high fidelity, and that's a very, very tricky line to cross. There are levels and environments in here I've never seen in a video game. And that is something that I can't say about some of the other nominees because some of that stuff I've seen elsewhere.
Hmm.
Like as much as I love Indiana Jones, I've seen a lot of what's in those games elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
For me, and this is the where we have to debate these things, right?
yeah,
Because what you're essentially asking me to do is concede Hellblade 2 to allow Balatro to win our best indie game. The problem for me is that Hellblade 2 is probably the best looking video game currently available. Like if we go
yeah, but
based
best
on
looking, I don't think contributes so much to art direction because art
no,
direction
and
isn't necessarily high fidelity. And I don't
it's
think,
not necessarily that's I agree, and that's what I was going to say is like fidelity and you know games that look realistic, they're great, but art direction is more than just looking realistic.
yeah,
So in that case, because in an because Elden Ring again was only just out of my top 5 for the art direction category, I will concede to you. So I think that there we have it. Elden Ring is our winner for art direction,
well,
which
we'll go,
means
we'll still talk about some of the nominees as well too, just to
yeah,
kind of get those out of the way there. Um, because like, yeah, like if you're willing to do that, Balatro can take small scale slash indie game.
yes, that's fine. So we have
So
two of our winners, but let's talk about some of the art direction in these other video games. There
yeah,
is one that I particularly want to mention
sure.
because I spoke about Europa already, and the reason Europa made my list was because the art and visual style of Europa is what made that experience what it was. And without that art and without that way of looking as a video game, it would have changed the entire tone of the experience. And therefore, I felt like it had to make the list because it was so crucial to the experience. Um, Towerborn kind of made the list because it's just very different looking from most other things that I've played, and
Mhm.
I do enjoy that difference, that point of difference. Similar to Dragon Age the Velguard, what I like about what they did was they went for realism, but they went for realism in almost like a Pixar or DreamWorks style of uh way. And then obviously indie, you mentioned just now. Yes, we've seen a lot of what indie does
Yeah,
in other
it's still
video
gorgeous.
games,
Like it's
but
actually so
it's
gorgeous.
an amazing looking video game. And also, what impressed me most in a weird way about the art direction in that video game is how they have so many different environments that genuinely use, you know, they use different assets, and they're not just reusing assets
Yeah,
and changing the color of them or things like that. They actually made these bespoke environments that look really cool. And when you go into some of these tombs and things like that, the way that the lighting can hit like a wall, and it sounds silly, but it just looks great. It just
yeah,
looks really, really
and
good.
the one thing that I'll say about the art direction as well too is that it still feels like an Indiana Jones experience. Like
Yeah,
every environment you're in feels as if it's part of the
yeah.
films.
And I mean, well, you know, we can talk about it now, but the very opening scene of the game is part of the films, and they
Yeah.
recreated that in such an amazing way. So, you know, I think that that's why it had to be among my nominees here. But what about yours, Jeff? How do you feel about yours?
Yeah, so for best art direction, so my nominees were Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree again. This game aesthetically is phenomenal, and it's just one of those games that gave me experiences that I've just never had in the game in terms of like its environmental design and just some of the bosses and some of just how color is used and just how like the environments themselves just feel like a secondary character. It's just gorgeous. Unicorn Overlord. This is like just a visually pleasing game. Like it looks like a bunch of like little JPEG characters that kind of like move and move around, and like it has that feel like the this is the same studio that made Dragon's Crown, so like it has that kind of like absolutely gorgeous artwork, and they just animated it. Phenomenal game looking. Um, oh, excuse me. Heading Out is kind of a driving game that's all black and white, and then there's like red skies and all that kind of stuff. And there's um, visually, it's just a very neat game. And I don't think that this game would have been as impressive is if it was in color. Um,
Interesting. Okay.
I will spoil the ending, not what
Okay.
happens in terms of story. But I was like, I wonder what this would be like in color. And then when you finally escape what you're doing and kind of beat the game, color starts bleeding into the world. And right there, I was 100% convinced that color would have ruined this game. Um, the black and white aesthetic is absolutely gorgeous, and it's a visually striking game that just looks very, very cool.
Wow. Okay. That's
Caravan Sandwich, I've kind of already talked about in terms of its visuals. It's just a very fun looking kind of game.
yeah.
And then Neva is,
Never
another
is
studio.
beautiful.
It
Beautiful game.
is visually stunning. Conrad Rosat and his team there, phenomenal. Like that game is just pure art.
Yeah.
Um, The only reason it didn't take my top spot is because it is just more of Gree, like in terms of its visuals, like it's still giving
And
that
the actual
same vibe.
style. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I do want to see them create a
Mhm.
little bit of a longer game next time in terms of like what it was, because it's very short. I
Yeah.
just want to see that team kind of expand a bit more into in terms of their art, because I think it's a great and absolutely gorgeous game, but I don't want another one that just looks exactly like this in Gree. I kind of want them to kind of branch out and give me something that just absolutely floors me.
Yeah.
Um, because like yeah, like if you go and play Gree and then play this back to back, it feels like one adventure in a lot of ways. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
so
I do want to, before we move on to the
yeah,
next category, I do want to say that one of the main reasons I was happy to concede to Elden Ring here as well is because what I really enjoyed about Shadow of the Erd Tree, from an artistic perspective, because you have to remember, if you don't know, I actually played Elden Ring for the first time after Shadow of the Erd Tree came out. So I played both pieces of content with that game back to back. And what I enjoyed about Shadow of the Erd Tree was that it had more color and it had more vibrancy in some of its areas, and it it kind of, yes, it looked like Elden Ring, but it also looked very different at the same time.
yeah,
And I, and I think that was clever. That was
it's a
really
good
clever.
it's a good palette cleanser, because like that world hasn't been fully destroyed in a lot of ways. So like
Yes.
it is just it's just a stunning, like you just look at like every single shot in that game is just a masterpiece of painting. Like
Yes.
it is, again, like it's not high graphical fidelity. It is just pure art
It's
design.
art. It's art. Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's, it's very well done art. So congratulations to them for winning that award. But what do we have up next, Jeff?
All right. I'm gonna go back up to the top here and put these guys in order. All right. So um we only have one more that we have to debate, and we'll do that in a bit. So this one
Okay.
here goes straight into winners. So again, we'll talk the nominees, and then we will discuss. We will reveal the winner. Best narrative, and the nominees are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantasio, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, Dragon Age The Veilguard, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and Life is Strange Double Exposure. Um, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a monumental task for the team because we know that story. And how do you expand that story into a 80, 70, 90 hour adventure, but
Yes.
still maintain the heart of what that is without making it feel like bloat? Now, there is bloat in the gameplay. There is like unnecessary things in regards to what that game does. But I think its story, especially when you start diving deeper into Barrett's story, when you start diving deeper into Tifa's story, when you start to expand about Red 13 and Vincent and all these characters, and it does such a fantastic job at merging all of that without displacing the tone, without making it feel uneven. It is just a phenomenal game in regards to what it does story wise. Um, moving on to, um, let's see here, best narrative. I got to find, all right. So the one that took it for me in regards to my winner there is Metaphor Revantasio. The story in this game is phenomenal. It keeps you guessing in a lot of ways. It's such a simple
That's,
idea. The king is dead. We're going to hold an election in regards to like who the people love, and building that up and kind of playing the villain, like playing against the villain and being like, hey, yeah, you're cool. We're going to hang with you for a little while. And then kind of swerving in to kind of deal with him, and the plot twists that kind of happen, the character moments, like Heisne and stuff like that, and him dealing
There's
with
so,
his son.
there's so much depth to the storytelling in Metaphor that it's
Yeah.
like it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal across the board. I agree with that.
Yeah. Let me get you your categories here.
Thank you, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
So
I should have the list in front of me, really, but I don't have enough screen space as well as recording the podcast, so I apologize for that.
yeah, so going deeper into my nominees here is Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. This was not a game that I was expecting to be blown away by the story. I was expecting just go pure action and killing and all that kind of stuff. But the tension between the three leads in regards to Titus, because he's holding confidential information back from Gadriel and all that kind of stuff, and the bunting of heads, essentially, of like, you know, uh, the team not getting together, like getting along together, and then all of a sudden there's the moment where they're like, all right, Titus, I trust you. And those moments are just phenomenal. They do such a good job at making these characters feel great. The campaign's only like 8 hours or so. So you've got a limited amount of time to kind of tell that story, because the bulk of the game is just shooting and action and all that stuff. And there's very few cutscenes. There's some, um, but they do such a good job at conveying that story and then kind of pushing Titus's story along for a whole full Space Marine 3, because I think 2 did well. But yeah, it is an absolutely amazing game, story wise. I really enjoyed it. Um, and then what have we got here? Let's see here, bringing up my list. Yeah, then we have Dragon Age: The Veilguard. I quite like the story. I know a lot of people don't like the writing and they think it's cringe and woke and all this other bullshit, which none of that exists. People are using, the wrong words, essentially, because they lack the intelligence to actually like convey it properly. The story was great in Dragon Age Veilguard. I absolutely loved it. I think that like how they handle like the villains and how they kind of handle that stuff, is really well done. And when I mean the villain, I mean like the actual villain. Um, and yeah, like I like the characters, I like the companions, I like the quest, I like everything that kind of happens that way. I think that game does a fantastic job. And then the one that we share, in this, and so we'll kind of, I'll end my talk once I talk about this, and then you can go into yours about it, is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This is a game that, on all accounts, shouldn't be this good, because licensed games generally don't do particularly well. They don't, respect the source material in the same ways. But this game is an Indiana Jones movie, and a good
It
one.
is. Yeah, it's certainly better than the last two movies.
And it feels like it fits just before Last Crusade. It has that tone. The characters are utterly fantastic. Every single one of those characters is just memorable and fun and good. Like waking up in Antonio's office and he's like dancing to the music and stuff like that. It's these little moments that are great, and the story is great. And I mean, yeah, it gets into that predictable moment, when like how every single one of these things work, where it's gonna like, we have to
But
stop him
that's
from
what
activating this. Of
but
course
that's
we're gonna
exactly what
activate
indie
it.
is.
Like, every single one of these films, the villain gets to do what he wants and it backfires. Like, that's one of those things that every one of these films do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
And this,
exactly why Machine Games nailed it, right? And
yeah,
they nailed what a narrative in an indie game should be. They writ it very, very well. And then on top of that, and it does help the narrative of a game be even better when the performances are so strong, conveying that narrative. Like, it's outstanding. And it only made second place on, well, I say that, it was my 4 point nomination. For me, there is one game that I have ahead of it, which I'll speak about in a minute, but
yeah,
indie is phenomenal. Like, and you are exactly right, Jeff. This game had no right to be this good. So it's yeah, outstanding, and I think it's a worthy position to be in. So let's talk about the one game that I have ahead of it, and that is Hellblade 2. Um, the reason that this game is ahead of Indie is not because I think that the story is necessarily better. I actually think the two games are quite hard to separate for me. However, what I like about the narrative in Hellblade 2 is the way that the game is used to tell the narrative. And what I mean by that is the first time you play through Hellblade 2, you're getting told this narrative, and certain things happen that potentially are quite predictable depending on whether you've picked up on certain hints on your way through the game. However, there is that moment where you're like, is this what really happened? And it's not until you play the game again and you hear the other characters narrating the events, you realize that the narrative being told is actually very different, and it's right there in front of you, but they've hidden it in a really clever way.
Hmm.
And so I think the actual mechanics of storytelling are better in Hellblade 2, and that's why it just picked Indie for me. But I do, if I could have given them both 5 points, I would have. And then my other nominations, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. I know Jeff played it as well, but he didn't finish it, I don't believe.
No, I got to that Dodoko Island or whatever, and like I got stuck there, and then basically I was like, I'm done.
Fair. But what I loved about the Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth story is that it's handling the two main characters of the franchise in a way that respects them both, and it feels like both a sequel to Like a Dragon, but also the end of all the games before. And it's kind of this nice. It just tells a really cool story that takes you, especially as a long-time fan of the franchise that has played every single one of these video games. The story connects to so many of the past events, and you see characters show up that you might not have expected, and some of the interactions that the new characters have with the older characters is really interesting stuff as well. It's great. Like as a Like a Dragon slash Yakuza fan, it's one of the better stories in the franchise, and it's a story that I will remember for a long time. My other two, obviously, one of them being Metaphor. That it did only get 1 point for me,
Hmm.
but that was more to do with I actually think there's a pacing problem with the narrative. Um, I think that the narrative takes a little bit too long to get to the good stuff. I think it meanders for a while at the beginning and kind of almost plays its cards a little too close to its chest at the beginning, and then after about the sort of 10-15 hour mark, that's where things start to open up and become more interesting narratively, and then it's great from that point forward. But yeah, because of that sort of pacing, it it does kind of knock it a little bit for me. And then my 2 point nomination was Life is Strange Double Exposure, because I love a good Life is Strange game. I do think this is a good Life is Strange game. The way in which it handles Max Caulfield and the past events in her life is really interesting because, and this is a slight spoiler, but it you are allowed to choose what the canon for you for her past events is. and what you choose does affect the way that she will act
Hmm.
within the narrative. And obviously, with there being narrative choices and things like that, there are different things that can happen. So, Life is Strange and similar kind of games, to me, always tell some of the best narratives because they do it in a way that it's cohesive no matter what you choose. And there was a point in time where I thought my ending was actually going to be very different to what it was.
Hmm.
But then as I came closer to the ending, the choices I was making changed. As I learned more things through the narrative, I was actually choosing what I would choose in that position rather than, like, sometimes with these games with a choice, you'll choose the thing you think is the wrong choice just to see what happens. Whereas I was kind of living in the narrative almost, and it was just a really nice experience. And I think if you're a Life is Strange fan, it's a very, very good game that you should play. And I know you haven't yet, Jeff, but I'm sure you want to at some point because I know that you are a big fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to narrative, those are all of them, and I believe that puts Indiana Jones as our winner.
Well, yeah,
Correct?
Metaphor was your last place one there. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, so Indiana Jones takes best narrative.
Yeah.
All right, so we have the next category is best JRPG. I'm gonna have to edit that. I have
Slash RPG.
well, I have JPRG.
JPRG.
Yeah, so there we go. Okay, so the nominees for Best JRPG slash RPG are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantasio, New World Aeternum, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, Dragon Age The Veilguard, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and Path of Exile 2. I've already talked pretty much about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Metaphor ReFantasio. These games are fantastic. I think it's impressive that Metaphor ReFantasio is still that Persona formula, but they've evolved it and kind of mutated it into something else. And it
Yes.
just works extremely well. Final Fantasy, I think they do a fantastic job at kind of like making like an open world JRPG, which is something that we kind of don't get a lot of times. Usually it's pretty restrained in regards to kind of where you're going, and they do a fantastic job there. Um, New World, Aeternum, I kind of talked about it during like my what I've been playing. This game is super fun. If you like um, Kingdoms of Amalur, you'll absolutely love New World Aeternum. And Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree. That game is just a absolutely phenomenal masterpiece, and I loved all the boss encounters and the fights in that game. It's just super fun, especially when you have somebody come in and be like, "Hey, let me solo the last guy," and I'm like, "Hey, fuck yeah, go for it," and then he does it. And yeah, it is just phenomenal. That game is just absolutely great. And then Dragon Age: The Veilguard. I really enjoyed it. It was my last place on this list here with um, Metaphor ReFantasio taking top spot for me there. But yeah, Dragon Age Veilguard, super fun. I really liked it. I've always preferred it being an action hack and slash game to the tactical stuff, which is why I'm really not interested in Greedfall 2 for what it's been doing. But yeah, that's my list there, and you can go through your stuff now for your nominees.
So my top nomination for this category was Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. And the main reason for that was the way that it improves on the turn-based gameplay and the mechanics and systems within that compared to the previous game. For me, is actually one of the biggest improvements I've seen in a game from one game to the next. I think they made massive improvements. They even did things with Kiryu which allow you to break the turn-based system, but in a fun way that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think it was lots of fun to play. And yeah, it just when I think of JRPGs slash RPGs that I played this year, in terms of games that reached their full release and and kind of made big improvements, like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is the pinnacle of that for me. Um, Part of that is because two of my nominees here in this category I obviously haven't finished yet. One of those is due to the length of the game, and the other one is just due to technical issues. But second up, Shadow of the Erd Tree, Elden Ring. Absolutely loved it. I think it's great. Ultimately, the only reason it loses out to Like a Dragon for me is because it is more Elden Ring. It is what it is, and that's not a bad thing. It very well could have been its own game, but on a mechanical level, it is still just more Elden Ring.
Yeah.
and and therefore it kind of docks it a little bit for me. And then my third place is Path of Exile 2, which I spoke about earlier. Genuinely think it's an amazing game. If it was 1.0 already, it potentially would have been in one of those two higher positions for me. But being an early access game, I think just means that I have to take that into account because it is still changing and evolving. And therefore, the quality of the experience could be impacted negatively or positively over time. And that's kind of why it sits in that middle ground right now within this category for me. And then we've got the two that I go
So
on.
Path of Exile, I'm looking at it's $38.99 for the base one.
Okay.
There's a $480 version of this game.
There is, yes. The reason that is, though, is you actually get multiple keys of the game if you buy that version.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So $38.99 is the one that I'd be looking at.
I mean, that's not
Okay.
a bad price, right, Jeff? You know Canadian prices better than I do, but
Yeah, our dollar absolutely sucks right now. Holy goddamn.
And then yeah, up next for JRPG RPG are my two that I haven't finished yet. In second place, well, in second to last place for me, my 2 point answer is the game that I only haven't finished because of crazy technical issues, and that is Dragon Age: The Veilguard. But what I was able to play of that game, which was still a significant chunk of it, I absolutely loved every single thing about it.
See, if
Like,
you like the combat in that, you'll like the combat in New World.
oh, okay, that's good to know. That's
Yeah.
good to know. Because, yeah, that is actually why Velgard is ahead of Metaphor Refantasio for me, because I just prefer the moment to moment gameplay being more active. I don't have a problem with turn based games, but I do enjoy that more active gameplay.
Yeah.
But moving on, I believe up next we actually have best soundtrack, right?
Well, we have to crown the winner for best
What is
JRPG and best slash RPG. And that is with, let's see here, with 8 points. That's Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree takes best RPG slash JRPG.
well deserved? Well
And we're going to be
deserved.
moving on to the soundtrack here. So the nominees for best soundtrack are Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Power Rangers, Rita's Rewind, Neva, Stellar Blade, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Europa, and Metaphor Refantasio. My nominees are so Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I think it's got a fantastic score. I think it works directly with the films. It feels like that. And when you have that theme playing, the Indiana Jones theme playing, fucking hell, it does a lot of heavy lifting.
and they don't overuse it either,
No,
which
it's
is
not
really clever.
a crutch. Like when you play Indiana Jones and the, I don't know, whatever, something temple. I was playing that on that
Temple of
Atrium
Doom or
arcade,
something.
and
Yeah.
like you go into the cave, whatever, and it's like dun 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 dun. I'm like, this doesn't feel like I should have this theme playing when I'm just like beating little bats that are flying around. It's like dun 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 dun, and like, and it's just it it's so weird having that theme just play, and it just repeats once it gets to the very end. It just dun 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 dun, dun, and I'm like, okay, all right, we're doing this again.
That
Um,
is funny.
but no, the soundtrack in that game is just phenomenal. Um, then we have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That soundtrack is so fucking good. Um, it's really good, and like Final Fantasy doesn't really have a theme, right? So like it doesn't have that one thing, but the soundtrack for that game is just really good. It was my second place um, answer in my categories here. Um, in my last place for it is Power Rangers Rewind. When you're playing that game and that Power Rangers theme kicks on, holy fuck, do you ever feel like you are invincible? Um, and yeah, it's just a great soundtrack, and that game is built on scraps. If you follow the development of that game, and they do such a good job with what they've got there. The soundtrack for Neva is very good. It is just it's it's what you want that soundtrack to feel. It complements the art so well. Um, very good. My top place is Stellar Blade. Like my phone ringer is like Raven's theme, and it is such a fucking banger. Holy hell! Like that
Nice.
soundtrack
Nice.
is so goddamn good. It just kind of reminds me of like Runer, where it just has this soundtrack where like every song feels like you are just doing the best shit in that game. It just is phenomenal. That the soft moments hit just as good as the hard moments, and
Good.
yeah, it is absolutely phenomenal.
Good. That's good to hear. Um, so I normally go from my highest nomination to my lowest. I'm actually going to go the opposite way this time.
Such a
My
rebel.
1 point answer is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle because I do think the music is really good across the board, and I think that the composer of the game takes a lot of kind of inspiration from the movie and does obviously use the main theme of Indy, but he also does his own thing which fits within that world. So I really like that. But again, it's the reason it's lower here is because at the end of the day, that main theme has it comes in and does some heavy lifting, right? Like it does do some heavy lifting, although they don't overuse it, and the music is done very well throughout the entire game.
Yeah.
There's something about these pre-existing themes, kind of like Jeff was saying about Power Rangers. When you hear these themes that we've known for years, they're always going to be special. And that
Yeah,
kind
it,
of
it
does.
turns that little part in your head basically where suddenly fun has increased by like 30%, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then my 2 point answer is Metaphor, Refantasio, and that's because while I'm playing the game, I really enjoy a lot of the music and ambient kind of soundtrack stuff that's going on. But the reason it only gets 2 points is because there's not one particular theme that I can pick out from that game where I go, that's the theme that I like.
Yeah, like Power Rangers. Um Persona 5 Royal. The music in that game, holy hell, is good.
Yeah.
Like You never see it coming. Like that song is just so good. There's not a song in Metaphor that I can actually remember, and I don't like that
Mhm.
battle theme, that chanting and stuff like that and stuff. I didn't like that theme at all. It just did not energize me for combat whatsoever.
That's fair. That's fair. And then my 3 point answer, I kind of mentioned it earlier because it's so crucial to the experience, is Europa. Because as I mentioned earlier, the art and the music is probably makes up around 80% of what Europa actually is as a video game. And and without that, oh, we've got Banter sleeping over there.
He's having puppy dreams. His little paws were
Nice.
twitching and stuff. So
Oh,
big giant cat
I
Will.
wonder if he's. I wonder if he's
Attention.
dreaming of New World.
He is. He wants to play it so bad.
but but yeah. So Europa gets 3 points based on how crucial the actual music and soundtrack is to the game experience itself. That's why Europa is ahead of the other two for me. And then for my 4 point answer, we've got Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. And the thing about that is anyone who's played a Like a Dragon or a Yakuza game will already know how great the music is, right? And they do reuse some of it from previous games, but in the big moments, they will have a new theme or they'll have a new version of an existing theme. And the way that they kind of incorporate that stuff and choose the right theme for the right moment, seemingly every single time, is outstanding. And it's just it makes those really big impactful story moments mean so much more. And we have Banter again. He
Oh,
was obviously.
he was twitching. He was
Yeah, I
twitching.
see the little twitch. He's having his doggy dreams.
He was going crazy. Anyways, so like,
And
and
then
it's got the different it's got the different soundtracks, especially for like um the Doko Island or whatever, and then like the biking mini game, and then like all
yes,
those little things kind of mix in. So like it does
yeah,
have
and there's
good
and there's
music. I
different
just
and
can't
there's
remember any of
different
it.
and there's different music that's used in side quests compared to the main quests and
Yeah.
things like that. It's really really clever. But top for me, although I haven't finished the game, and I am gonna go back and finish it, but I'm actually gonna finish it on PC. Is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because although I have my problems with the gameplay of that video game, two of the things that I think are outstanding are the story and the music. I think every single piece of music in that game is outstanding.
All right. And the winner for best soundtrack is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. All right, so we have already talked art direction, so we are going to be moving on to Best Action Adventure. All right, and the nominees are Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, New World, Aeternum, Star Wars Outlaws, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, and Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga. All right, so I'm going to be moving through my categories here. Um, and that is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is my top spot there. We've kind of talked about it at length already. This game is just fun. It feels like an Indiana Jones adventure, and that is just something that is um, absolutely phenomenal. Oh, I think I changed. I think I changed something here. Wait, I think I might have missed one in the nominees. Indiana Jones.
Jeff might have
Oh yeah,
missed
yeah,
one.
yeah. I forgot that I put Elden Ring in there because I had forgot about that one. Yeah, so Elden Ring, Shadow of the Earth Tree. That game is just fucking good.
Yeah.
It is such an adventure. Phenomenal. New World, Aeternum. Again, I've talked at length about it. Very, very, very good. Um, Star Wars Outlaws is really good. Like this is a game that kind of I think this what it is right now with all the patches and fixes and things it's had to it is what it should have launched. Um, it is such a good Star Wars game without a lightsaber anywhere, right? And
Hmm.
it feels really good. The characters are fantastic, especially ND5, and we'll get to him later.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a great Star Wars game that I think kind of got shafted because I mean reviewers barely got any time to kind of have with it. They had to race
Yeah.
through it.
I if I can jump in here as well because it is also on my
Yeah,
nominees list. And I actually agree. I was saying this to our friends at the Outer Haven the other day, where I think that Star Wars Outlaws had reviewers had even 2 or 3 extra days with it. I think that initial reception, even based on what the game was then,
yeah,
could have been massively different. And I
yeah.
think
I
that
I crunched through it like fucking hell.
yeah, yeah, because you got it after me, and I felt like I crunched through it. So
Yeah,
yeah, but to me, and it is so it's not my top answer, but it is my second place for this category. And when I think of action adventure game, it kind of epitomizes an open world action adventure game for me. This is exactly what I expect an action adventure game to be. And like you said, Jeff, something I really agree with is it's a great Star Wars video game and it doesn't need a lightsaber to do it. Like,
yeah.
fantastic. But yeah, back to
Um,
your nominees.
yeah, the one of the other ones we share is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. This actually took Giant Bomb's Game of the Year when they announced it yesterday through their video there. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is just honestly one of the best Prince of Persia games. It feels very good. It's a solid Metroidvania. It's got a lot of unique abilities that kind of
It's
work really
such a
well.
good game that that team should still exist.
It's so stupid. Like
Yeah.
it is just Ubisoft. I don't know what they're doing with it, but um, yeah, it kind of sucks. You know, like kind of what happened with that team and everything like that. But the game is really good. That the picture taking and adding it to the map is one of the most
Mhm.
impressive additions to Metroidvanias.
And this isn't the only category it will come up in either. There's another category where it deserves a lot of praise.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no,
yeah.
it is very very good. The other, let's see here, the only other one that you got on here that we haven't talked about is Hellblade 2. In terms
Yeah,
of
so
like,
obviously I want to say quickly that indie is also my top choice for
yeah,
this category, and if you've played indie, you know exactly why it is an action adventure game to the fullest extent. It's like a in design terms, it's actually like an old school sort of 360 action adventure game, but brought into the modern day, and it absolutely nails it. But yeah, Hellblade 2 actually scores 2 points for me in this category, slightly above Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree. Part of the reason for that is because with Shadow of the Erd Tree, it's hard for me to separate that from Elden Ring itself in terms of this category specifically, because I played both of them as one big thing, and therefore they kind of meld together a little bit for me. Um, but Hellblade 2, to me, it is an action adventure, but it's so focused on narrative that it just does things in a different way than other action adventure games do. And I think that, for me, when I think of a unique action adventure game that I played this year that we don't see very often, Hellblade 2 is the answer to that question. So it had to make my nominees for that reason, really.
awesome. So, best action adventure goes to Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
I think that's our
Um,
first 10-point winner as well. So,
yeah. All right. So we're going to go into best action. So the nominees for best action are Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, Stellar Blade, Mullet Mad Jack, Kill Knight, The First Descendant, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, and X Defiant. All right. So, let me, did I get
How
this
many
correctly
how
for
many
you?
do we share on this one, Jeff? Because
Let me see here. Here is
I
action
feel like we
games.
share at least one. Hmm.
Yeah, so we shared Warhammer 40K Space Marine.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, like Warhammer Space Marine 2 is so amazing. This is like
Yeah.
kind of the evolution of Gears of War in a lot of ways, but I mean, like Gears of War was inspired obviously by Warhammer. Um, and yeah, like it is just one of the best action games I think I've ever played. It is unbelievably good. The action's great. The weapons are fantastic. The multiplayer that's in there is great. The side mission things that you kind of do are great. All of the content that's being added to the game is completely free. The season pass is basically just cosmetics only, nothing else. Um, this game is fucking awesome. Like it is just a non-stop action trip. It just
Yeah.
never lets up. It is just fantastic, and like going into those side missions and customizing your guy and like adding all of the stuff is just very cool because you play the like your Titus will be like, hey, you three, I need you going on this mission to help us here, and you'll go and do that mission. It's not just something that's happening in the background of the narrative. You go and do that mission, which
Yeah.
adds
It's actually
this
connected
secondary
to it.
campaign.
Hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, it is just the epitome of action. I think it is the best action game to kind of release this year in regards to what it does. It
Yeah.
doesn't take my top spot, but your thoughts on Warhammer 40K Space Marine?
Yeah, it's a good time for me to speak about it because it does actually take my top spot. I think it was far and away as an overall action game. I do think it was the best action focused game that I played. It's just all out action, and the most basic way of describing it for people who haven't played it is it's like a Gears of War game on steroids. Like it's Gears of War turned up to 11, and yeah, it's a phenomenally great time.
It
I
uses the
absolutely
swarm
loved every
engine
second of
from World War Z, so you
it. It
have that
does.
like those floods of enemies and stuff.
Yeah, it does. And it can get hectic and it can be difficult as well. Like it can get difficult at times, but it's just a lot of fun. And it's like, when you're kind of parrying attacks and you can do these like execution style moves, they always look really cool.
Oh yeah, you hop
It's
onto
just
an enemy basically and like grab the head and like rip it right off. Like,
yeah,
yeah, it's
it's
fucking
just
cool.
it's so much fun. And not only that, but I was surprised because I wasn't expecting it. It tells a good story as well. Like I really like Titus as a character. I I really like the story that's being told with him, and I do think it's a good game to play even for those that aren't that familiar with Warhammer. I think it's quite easy to kind of get in and understand what's going on from Titus's perspective.
Yeah.
So it does a really good job in that regard, and yeah, I absolutely loved it.
Alrighty. Going down my categories here as well too. My top spot is Stellar Blade. This game is just everything I literally wanted it to be, and they just keep adding stuff. They added the near DLC, photo modes, and all that kind of stuff. Like this game just plays super fun. The action's really nice. The outfits are obviously fantastic as well too. But it's just it it gives me that kind of action feel that I've wanted. I was afraid that it was going to be this Souls-like type of thing, but no, it's more of like a Devil May Cry in some ways. It's not as flashy and combo heavy as that, but this game is just great. I absolutely loved it. It is a absolute tribute to Nier Automata as well. I mean, the guy that did it is clearly inspired by it. It's got connections there as well. It's just a absolutely fantastic game. Mullet Magic, again, talked about it earlier. It is just this game where you're just constantly killing to keep the time going as you kind of go up this tower to rescue this girl that's been kidnapped. And it's just this like 90s, or sorry, like 80s kind of aesthetic type of thing with like neon and the music going. And it's just, honestly, if you have a chance to even check out gameplay, it is one of the most noisy and busy looking games out there, but holy hell, it's great. Kill Knight, we talked about it as well earlier before. Very, very good. And then the First Descendant, I had a lot of fun with this game. Um, and played it with a friend of mine as well. And we were kind of going through that, and we killed the end boss, and we got into the end game stuff. And that game gets progressively harder, and all the content and the characters that they've added, the costumes look great. The characters look stunning. It's basically like this world where like everyone is gorgeous. um, and it is just super fun. I love the action on it. Third person stuff is just really good. It's the shooting's fantastic. The cutscenes are great. The story is actually not too bad. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah. So I have 3 other games to talk about here because one of the games we've already spoken about, so I'll get that one out of the way. Receiving 2 points from me is Kill Knight. We spoke about it earlier. Very,
Yeah.
very fun,
Yeah, we
bullet
shared
hell
those.
kind of game. But my 1 point answer, and it would have been higher apart from the fact that it is soon to be shut down, is X Defiant. Ubisoft's X Defiant, which is somewhere between traditional first person shooter and kind of hero shooter. It 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 basically takes Ubisoft's pre-existing IPs and uses them in a really interesting way to create the classes that you're using in the video game, and each class has has different kind of things it can do, different abilities. Some are more defensive focused, some are more attack focused. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to play. And it's a shame this game is being shut down because I actually think that I had just as much fun playing this game this year as I did Call of Duty Black Ops 6 multiplayer.
Hmm.
However, for whatever reason, Ubisoft doesn't believe in it and they don't want to stick with it the way that they did with Rainbow Six Siege. But I think that if they were willing to stick with it and give it time, I do think that we could have seen a similar kind of story to Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah, like it's just like the shooting and the hitboxes was so off. Then
Yeah.
that's one thing that they need to fix, because there was like a timing delay with how the game renders and handles certain things and stuff, which made the
Yeah,
shooting kind of off.
because we played quite a bit of it together, right, Jeff? And
Yeah.
it was fun. Was fun. So yeah, that kind of gets 1 point from me. And then the 2 other things that I need to speak about, obviously, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. That was my 4 point answer because I do actually think that this is the best Call of Duty game probably since the
I
reimagining of
still have to
Modern
go through the
Warfare.
campaign. I've only played like the
Ca-
first 2 missions. I got to the house. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
The campaign is very good. It's actually one of my favorites.
yeah.
I really enjoyed the campaign. The multiplayer is what it is. You know what Call of Duty multiplayer is by this point.
I just
Excuse
like,
me.
one of the reasons why it's not on any of my lists is I think it is absolutely disrespectful to the consumer that you cannot carry your skins over to the next game. Why can
Yeah.
I not bring Rhea Ripley to Call of Duty Black Ops 6?
Yeah, especially because they do the Call of Duty hub thing now where you have to load up a hub which has all the games in it.
It doesn't
So
make
clear.
any sense. Like
No.
they like, from now on they need to license these characters for future use, because I paid money for Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
Now I have to go back and play the other Call of Duty
Just to
to
use that
benefit from
skin.
that purchase.
Mhm.
It's so fucking dumb.
Yeah. Especially with the way they're trying to do things, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then the other game I quickly want to mention, and it will be quick because, it's Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is effectively Starship Troopers made on a much bigger budget, and it plays in a way that you might expect a third person shooter to play, with different
It looks fun.
fun power ups and stuff.
I just don't want to
It's a
get
lot of
PlayStation
fun.
Plus.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is obviously online only, and it is PlayStation and PC only. I'm hoping that one day PlayStation and Sony will see the light and put this game on Xbox, because this game should be on all platforms. It's that kind of game. As an online focused game, it
Yeah,
would benefit from being available everywhere. So that is a shame. But yeah, in terms of action game, it's one of the best that I played this year. So it had to make the list.
perfect. Best action games with winning with 9 points is Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. All right, so we're going to be getting on to best licensed game. And
This is a quicker one, I think.
yeah, we've already kind of talked about pretty much everything there. Best licensed game, the nominees are Power Rangers, Reader's Rewind, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, TMNT, Splintered Fate, Star Wars Outlaws, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, and A Quiet Place, The Road Ahead. So yeah, like Power Rangers, again, if you love Power Rangers, if you love beat 'em ups, if you love TMNT, Shredder's Revenge, play this game, buy it, get it. The 3D stuff that you're doing is unique to the genre of what they've done here. There's so much variety. There's so much fun. You unlock the Green Ranger at the end, and you can go through the game with him. That game is just absolute joy. It's so much fun. TMNT Splintered Fate. This is a TMNT roguelike. It looks it follows the IDW kind of comic series, so you see a lot of familiar characters there as well too that you may not know if you only know the basics of the TMNT lore. That game is incredibly fun. It's super great. It is a roguelike. It's basically TMNT Splintered Fate, or TMNT meets Hades. That's basically what it is. It just lacks the variety that Hades has. Um, but yeah, it's really good. And then again, Star Wars Outlaws, we've talked about that. Warhammer Space Marine, we've already talked about that. And Indiana Jones, we've already talked about that. But
Why did I
Jordan,
not put? Hold on. Why did I not put Star Wars on my list?
I have no idea.
I'm crazy. I'm sorry. I'm on the fly going to change my list because I have no idea why it's not on there. So that will now be my 3 point answer for this category.
Okay,
And the one that is my 3 points, which is A Quiet Place, will be my 2 point answer.
sure,
Um,
that's fine. It doesn't change the 101.
no,
The 101.
everything else will remain the same. I do want to talk about A Quiet Place because it's a game that only comes up once in this entire conversation, but I did very much enjoy it. It's kind of like Alien Isolation, but the thing is, if you're a fan of Quiet Place itself and that universe and that world, it just nails what it needs to nail. Like it's is it as big budget and as bombastic as something like Indiana Jones? No, of course not, because it's more of a double A game in scope. But it felt like I was in the world of A Quiet Place. And it does some interesting things mechanically, which are, which is the kind of things we don't see very often. And it was a nice experience to have, especially with us not having, Alien Isolation is many years old at this point, and no other games have really done anything similar from then till now. So Quiet Place is a very fun game. Very fun game.
All right. So best licensed game with how many points was it? 10 points. And that is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Honestly, it's just one of the best licensed games pretty much ever made. It was made for this category. All right. So this one here is our next one is best 2024 game you didn't play. Now I'm going to be saying the nominees as well as the person that put forth the nominees, just because it gives a little bit more clarification there. So the nominees are Balatro, and that was me. I did not play Balatro. Black Myth Wukong. I've got to edit here. I forgot a parentheses. We need to close that off. So yeah, Black Myth Wukong. Neither of us played it. Helldivers 2. I never got a chance to play that as well. Rise of the Ronin. I will be playing that tomorrow. I got a friend
Nice.
who's going to be lending me the PS5 disc. And Pacific Drive. I didn't get a chance to play that, and that game looks very, very cool. Stellar Blade. That's Jordan. New World.
Sorry, Jeff.
I know. New World Aeterna. Jordan. The Night Springs DLC for Alan Wake 2. Jordan. And Tekken 8 for Jordan. So in terms of where everything placed, winning by 9 points is Black Myth Wukong. So again, we can't really talk about these games because we didn't play them. That's
No,
the
but
point
what
of
I
the
can
category.
say is every single game that I nominated in this category is something that I plan to play.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm gonna
So
try Rise of Ronin, and if I can beat it and get out a review or something like that, I might. I might
nice.
just play it for fun. The next category is Best 2024 Game You Didn't Finish. It's been a busy, busy year, so obviously there's been some games that have kind of fallen to
It's
the
been such
wayside.
a busy year. I forgot some games existed.
Yeah, that initial list you sent me. Oh boy. All right. So, best 2024 game you didn't finish. The nominees are Silent Hill 2 Remake, both myself and Jordan. New World Aeterna. I'm working on that one. But Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. I didn't beat that one as well. And Zenless Zone Zero. I've completely given up on that game, unfortunately. And Mario and Luigi Brothership, which is kind of on pause right now. I just haven't had a chance to get back
Jeff
to it.
didn't finish it because Mario and Luigi have turned purple.
Yeah, they weird color. Fucking hell. Path of Exile 2, Jordan. I've got to put a 2 on that. I did not put a 2 on that. So I put a 2 on it.
Yeah, I'm still working on that game. Obviously, I'm into Act 3 at this point, but I've kind of hit a wall with where I can progress to at the moment, just because of my level.
Gotcha.
Because I'm slightly under leveled for the area that I'm in because of how the leveling works when you play in co-op. I've leveled up quicker than I probably should have, basically.
Gotcha. And then the other nominees we've talked about, where Jordan has not been able to finish them, and that is Metaphor Refantasio, Dragon Age, The Veilguard, and then you have not finished Neva, Jordan. The game is 4 hours long.
I know, but that also came at a time when I was reviewing Indiana Jones, so I apologize. But I feel like
Gotcha.
that was a decent reason to not finish Never.
All right. So we hold on. The winner for that one is Silent Hill 2 Remake.
And
We're
rightfully
gonna
so, because we probably should have both finished that.
Yeah, like I have it. It's sitting there. I'm gonna get to it because like the game is just
Mhm.
great. All right, so we're gonna get into best sports slash racing or slash simulation. The nominees are Expeditions, a Mud Runner game, Horizon Chase 2, Hot Wheels Monster Truck Stunt Mayhem, WWE 2K24, EA Sports FC25, Topspin 2K25, EA Sports F125, and Undisputed.
EA
Um,
have some weird naming conventions.
yeah, I mean, 2K, you know what you're getting out of those ones.
True.
For me, for best sports and racing, my top spot was Expedition, a Mud Runner game. That game was fun. It comes up later in another category as well. But no, it's just it is what you kind of want out of the Mud Runner games. Like it's you have a target goal, you get to your vehicle, and you basically go and haul something out of the mud and then take it back to where you're going. And it's really, really solid. My second place one was WWE 2K24. I think it's great. I do think the only flaw in that game is that by the time that it ships, a lot of characters have kind of transitioned to different looks. Like I wish I could download the new look for Rhea Ripley, but I'm gonna have to wait for 2K25 to get the new Rhea Ripley.
Well,
Um,
based on previous release timing, that might only be a couple of months away, Jeff. So you won't
yeah,
be waiting too long.
I'll have to see if we can get two codes for that one. And then my third place is Hot Wheels Monster Truck Stunt Mayhem. If you like monster trucks, by all means, try this game out. It is a bit floaty and weighty in a lot of ways that I didn't particularly like. And then my last place one is Horizon Chase 2, which is kind of like a fun arcade racer. If you like the old like Genesis racing games where you're basically just like turning and stuff as you're going, and it's kind of handling most of the other aspects of it. It's a pretty fun little arcade racing game, especially if you like San Francisco Rush, that game and stuff like that. Those types of games. But other than that, take it away for yours.
Okay, so yeah, my top spot is WWE 2K24. I just think it was a really, really solid video game. Of course, some people will have an issue with like the microtransactions in certain modes, but
Yeah.
I also feel like those are largely avoidable, and there's enough content in the rest of the game that you don't need microtransactions for, that you could just completely ignore that and still have a brilliant experience. And I just think it improves on probably the last 3 or 4 games in the series in some really big ways. Um, and I like that. Yes, okay, the roster does have the problem, like Jeff was saying, that after a little while, or sometimes even at the time of release, characters will have outdated looks or outdated
Or they're fired and they have
gimmicks.
to be removed.
Yeah. However, there are actually there was less problem with that this year compared to previous years. I think either
Yeah.
last year or
And
the
I
year
was,
before, there were like 20 wrestlers in there that were no longer with the company. It was weird.
yeah. And I think it's so stupid that Jade Cargill is DLC.
Yeah, that was weird. And then the other ones are fairly easy, like EA Sports FC25. It is what it is, soccer/football game. Gets 4 points because it's very solid. It's probably the best that series has felt to play
And
in many, many
it's the first that
years.
they've dropped the FIFA name as well too, so they've kind of had
Mhm.
to be this new identity as well.
Yeah, yeah. And then 3 points is a returning franchise after a very long time away. Top Spin 2K25. I know that some people weren't happy with that game, but I actually think that for a first entry in so long, I think it really set a solid foundation for what they can do going forward.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun playing it. And ultimately, I think when it comes to sports games, especially, the focus should be fun because you can't really do story in a sports game. So the focus should be how authentic is it and how fun is it to play, because that covers both sides of your more simulation based sports games and your more arcadey based sports games.
See, I think you can do story in a sports games, but I don't think people are looking at the sports games for that. They're looking at just for the sports because what the heck did you just do? Oh,
Banter did something.
I know what happened.
Oh,
Yeah.
banter is causing banter.
Nope. Nope. My Xbox controller fell off the back of the couch.
Oh,
Okay. Sorry, banter. All right. I don't think people are looking for story stuff because, like, you take a look at and like, there's a lot of drama-based sports films that they could pull from. There could be
that's
something
true.
there, but I don't think
That's
people are
true.
looking for it. I think it is just a complete waste of money to put in this like drama-filled story about a tennis
Yeah,
player and
and the
blah blah blah.
cost that it takes them to develop that kind of mode
Yeah,
probably isn't worth it for the amount of people that then
I
actually
just don't
engage
think
with it.
people are going to care because like you take a look like the story modes and like basketball games and football games and stuff like that they've done. People generally don't think about those when they're thinking
Yeah,
about Madden or whatever their NBA 2K.
definitely, definitely.
So
And then the other two, so one is EA Sports F1 25. That entire franchise is solid and has been for many, many years. I don't think that we'll ever get an F1 game that can challenge what Codemasters does with that license. And that's, in my opinion, the exact reason that EA bought the company, um, was to effectively get that license. And then my 1 point answer is actually a brand new IP that brings us back to finally having a boxing game again. It's called Undisputed. It did technically release in early access a while ago, but it had its full release in October 2024. And if you liked the previous sort of fight night games and things like that from EA back in the day, it's basically those video games, but even more in depth and actually kind of goes more into the realm of a boxing RPG almost. Um, it's very very fun to play and very good, and I'm excited to see what the future of that franchise is.
all right. So best sports slash racing slash simulation goes to WWE 2K24. Next category is a short one, just because I'm the only person who actually played any fighting games.
Yes.
So, best fighting game, the nominees are Tekken 8, Rise of the Dragon Neo, and Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. Tekken 8 is the best Tekken's ever been. It feels great. The story mode's fantastic. The visuals are great. The online is fantastic. This is such a wonderful fighting game. Rise of the Dragon Neo is kind of a remaster of the original release. It's like kind of like it plays like an SNK fighter from years ago, and it is very very good. My top spot and the winner of this category, unfortunately, to Tekken 8 is Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collections Arcade Classics. This is the collection no one saw coming. Everyone was expecting Marvel vs. Capcom 2 to eventually come to consoles and handhelds and all that kind of stuff, modernized. But this is everything. Like this is everything, including the Punisher game. It all plays fantastic. The having these games online um, is just staggering. What Capcom has done here. This is one of the best collections I think ever. The games play and feel fantastic. I mean, like the Switch version plays so freaking good. The online is great. Like everything about this collection is absolutely fantastic. Um, this is you get multiple versions of the different games. Some of them are like some of the best versions of the games. I know a lot of people were hoping that the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was the Dreamcast version or something like that. I think I can't remember, but this game is great. And yeah, the winner of the best fighting game goes to Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. All right, so this is the next debate. This is the
Okay.
only other debate that we've got. Um, and so this goes to, I'm trying to think here. Um, yeah, I have a reason for my debate, but we will get to it. So the category is best handheld. So this is best handheld game. This is the best game that you have played on a handheld. It's available on a handheld, and your primary experience of playing it is on a handheld. And so the nominees are Pepper Grinder, which we've talked about prior already, Void Rot, Overrider, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics, Caravan Sandwich, Balatro, and The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. Now that one, I
Jeff's
will say,
favorite game.
is only on there because that was the only other handheld game that Jordan had played, other than Balatro, which we've talked already.
That is correct.
The other games that I'll talk about, Voidrot, absolutely fantastic Metroidvania. It gets very hard though, very hard. Overrider, which I'm playing right now, it's an early access. This is if Streets of Rage and Cyberpunk 2027, the anime, had a baby, that's what this game is, and it's so fucking good. You basically like hijack bodies, so you'll be fighting and then you'll get a combo and it open up and then you can hack into them and then take over their body. So if you're fighting somebody who does a lot of drop kicks and stuff, you convert into them and then keep fighting. So then you're the drop kick guy. So like you play as this anime girl and you basically fuse into the body of that person. You take them over. So you have so many different characters that you can kind of play as you just hack them and take over them. And you basically upgrade your skills. You go back to this clinic and you basically treat people who are looking for implants, and that gets you money, and that money puts it towards your upgrades. And this game is great. I will say, however, the story and the translation is very, very poor. That stuff definitely needs work. Let's see here.
That's interesting.
There's quite a few, but we'll speed through them.
Okay.
Let's see here. And then, Marvel's Capcom, where you talked about Caravan Sandwich, where you talked about it. So my debate for this category, because like I haven't played Balatro. It's taken best indie game and stuff like that. My debate for this is the first time a Marvel vs. Capcom game has been on a Nintendo platform, and not only that, it had the best online of all platforms at launch. Like,
Yeah.
that to me is
Okay.
the debate for it, is that this was a game that has never been on a Nintendo console before. Like none of the other previous games. None of
I
these
mean,
games have ever been there.
that is a fair point. However, my one pushback in favor of Balatro would be that Balatro is even more of a handheld game because it's available on mobile.
Yeah. Like
And I think that
I'm good with pretty much any of it. Like, my only Hail Mary here is the fact that I don't know if we have a tie for our game of the year.
neither do I. Neither do I.
And like, I do have the tiebreaker.
Yeah, you do. You do. Because you won our game of the
Yeah.
game awards predictions. Jeff won, so he
Yeah.
has the tiebreaker vote.
So that's where I kind of want to use it here, because I don't think we have a tiebreaker. I think it's fair unanimous in regards to what our
I would imagine so, because I
yeah
think we're both on the same sort of wavelength.
yeah. So I kind of want to use my tiebreaker here then.
That's fair. That's fair. You can do that if you feel like.
Like I like, based on kind of where I think most of it's going to lay out.
I mean, you know what my number one is. I'm not gonna say it right now, but you know what my number one
Yeah, I've already put it in the graphic.
is.
So again, like, based off the points, like from what I'm kind of seeing, at least with how everything's kind of playing out, I'm pretty sure that it's going to win, because I don't see some other stuff showing up. And even then, if it swaps between one or the other, I'm good with either of those.
Okay.
So I'll use my tiebreaker here then and give it to Marvel vs. Capcom Arcade Fighting Collection.
Fair. There we go.
All right, so we're going to speed through some of these as well too, just for time's sake. Best DLC expansion or update. This can be an update to a game. This can be anything that has been added to a game.
There's one right answer here.
Yeah. So that's Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Starfield, Shattered Space, Stellar Blades Near DLC, Alan Wake 2 Night Springs DLC, Alan Wake 2, the Lake House DLC, and Hollow Body third person update. So the third person update, so Hollow Body was a game that played like Resident Evil, fixed camera angles. They added an update that allows you to actually play it like Silent Hill, third person. So it changed the game entirely. And I'm playing that game right now on Steam Deck, and it's great. It's absolutely great. Stellar Blade Neo DLC, again, it just adds the ability to play as 2B and 2A and all that stuff. Shadow Archery we've already talked about. Shattered Space, I think, is a good I think is a good addition to Starfield. I don't think it changes my opinion on it, but I will say the environments look really good. I like how it's story focused.
Yeah.
It's solid there as well.
If you like Starfield, it's more of Starfield, and it's a
Yeah,
more story focused one setting kind of expansion. So it's more in the realm of what Bethesda
yeah.
normally do.
And then the Alan Wake DLCs, they are what they are. If you like Alan Wake 2, you're
I
probably
do
like,
think it deserves a shout out, however, that
yeah.
both of the Alan Wake DLCs made this list. So,
Yeah, like I didn't really have in terms of like too many updates that I could really think about that really kind of impacted a lot of stuff. And I think like the Night Springs DLC, I added it. It's my 2 point answer.
mhm,
Um, I think that there are some aspects of it that are better than the main game, but I still
mm,
did not absolutely love it.
fair,
Um,
fair.
but the winner for this category is Elden Ring: Shadow of the Earth Tree. All right, so best remake slash remaster. The nominees are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Silent Hill 2 Remake, The Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered, Epic Mickey Rebrushed, Shadows of the Damned Hella Remastered, and Dead Rising Remastered. Um, so we've talked at length pretty much about all of these except for three of them. And that is The Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver Remastered. This basically takes the games kind of in an untouched state and kind of puts a graphic overlay. It fixes the camera, but again, it doesn't always fix the camera. Those games are extremely good. And now people who have never played them get to play them. It also packs in all of the deleted stuff into their own self-contained things. Um, it's a great collection. Epic Mickey Rebrushed was, let's see here. I tossed it on there. It's my 2.1. I think that there is a decent game here. I don't think the remaster gives it the treatment to make it that great game. I
Yeah,
think that
I
it
agree with that.
has too many flaws, essentially, that should have been addressed. And you've already heard me talk at length about Shadow to the Dam Hella Remastered. I don't think it's a remaster. I think it's just basically a port. I don't think it looks any
Hmm.
better. And then, yeah, the Silent Hill 2 remake is just fucking amazing from what I've been able to play. And
Yes.
the only one that really needs any conversation from you would be Dead Rising, eh?
Yeah, so I did play Dead Rising. I haven't finished it, which is why I didn't review it in the end. But part of the reason I also didn't review it is because this is a very simple remaster. It's the same game, but it looks better and frame rates are better,
Yeah.
essentially. Which means that it is now the best way to play the original Dead Rising video game
Yeah, I
by
didn't like the
far.
timer. That was the one thing that just made me not want to go back to those games. I hated the
Yeah,
timer.
yeah, and I can absolutely appreciate that. So yeah, it's a decent remaster. If you're someone that enjoys the game, this is now the best way to play it, but it's not in the same league as, Silent Hill 2 remake and some of the other things we've mentioned here.
Yeah. All right. Winner for best remake slash remaster is Silent Hill 2 Remake. Best family game. The nominees are Astrobot, The Plucky Squire, Little Kitty, Big City, Hot Wheels, Monster Truck Stunt Mayhem, Looney Tunes, Wacky World of Sports, Europa, and Epic Mickey Rebrushed. Let me get your categories here.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see here.
I
Uh,
mean, I think I know what's going to win this one.
yeah,
I'm assuming that there are two games that we both had. I can't remember.
yeah.
Um,
So Astrobot is one of the best platformers I think released in the last couple years. This is basically on the same level as Nintendo.
I
I am
agree.
still convinced it is not a celebration of IP, but it's more of a graveyard of IP for
Graveyard.
how much stuff that is featured here has no future whatsoever.
Yeah,
Um, like it's been abandoned by Sony, the same company that says that they don't have a lot of IPs that they control. Plucky Squire is good. Like it's absolutely fantastic. I don't think that it has, um, I think the chance of winning here, but it is still a very good game. I think that if you like that storybook aesthetic, I think the 3D stuff falls apart more than the 2D stuff
I'd
because
agree
like
with that.
shifting the book around and stuff is super fun. But
I
yeah,
like that it was imaginative and actually tried something new,
yeah,
and that's why it kind of ranks so high for me in this category. Because I do think younger children will probably really enjoy it as well.
yeah,
Same with Astrobot. Europa I spoke about earlier, just the general nature of that game, I think makes it a really good family video game. And Epic Mickey 2
no,
is,
Epic Mickey,
again,
just Epic Mickey.
oh yeah,
There's a
Epic
typo.
Mickey. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was going to say, um, Epic Mickey Rebrushed, I think, is, again, one that's really well suited to a younger audience, but has some sections in it that they might need help with from their parents or older siblings, and therefore it makes it a good family game as well, I think.
yeah. Little kid, big city. If you have kids, play this game. It is unbelievably good. You are a cat, you fall down, you have to get back up. And how you do that is by helping the community and doing tasks and things, and it is absolutely great. Hot Wheels, Monster Truck, Stunt Mayhem, kids were going to love it. I don't think it controls well, but I think still kids will love it. And Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports, I think, is kind of a good alternative if you don't have the Mario soccer games or the Mario golf games. It gives you the opportunity to kind of play those games as the Looney Tunes characters. But best family game unanimously with 10 points is Astrobot. Best new IP. Let me get you your categories there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see here. All right. So the nominees for Best New IP is Stellar Blade, Caravan Sandwich, The First Descendant, Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden, Unicorn Overlord, Metaphor Refantasio, Towerborn, and No Rest for the Wicked. Let me add an S here because I don't know how to type.
I um I only have four nominees for this category, so just talk about them very quickly. Obviously,
Yeah,
Metaphor is my winner here with 5 points from me because it's just a cool new IP and I enjoyed it. We spoke about it a lot earlier.
yeah,
No Rest for the Wicked, we also spoke about earlier. That was my 3 point answer. Um, and that's just I like the fact that that studio is going in a different direction, doing a different thing. Towerborn I didn't speak about much, but this is basically like a side-scrolling beat 'em up Castle Crashers style of game.
yeah. I want to
That
try it because like I heard you guys talking about it. Yeah, and it sounds really
it's
great.
it's a lot of fun, and it has received a few big updates since I last played it. So I haven't played it for a
Yeah.
while,
See, I get that
but
one confused with 33 Immortals or whatever it was. I get that
yeah,
confused with those ones.
yeah. But at some point earlier in the year of 2025, it is also coming to Xbox Early Access.
Cool.
So that's going to be interesting when that happens to see, because I think at that point, that's where they'll be very close to full release, because I
Yeah.
think that's kind of
I'm
what
gonna
they're
try
waiting
Towerborn
for.
when it comes to Xbox.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed that. It's a lot of fun. There's four different classes you can play as, and you basically go through all these different areas that get harder and harder as you go, and then you can level up the world tier like in Division and go back through the areas and
Nice.
get better loot and stuff. So that's really cool. And then my 2 point answer, because I don't have a 1 point answer, was Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden. But I'll let Jeff speak about that one more because he played more of it than I did. So
Yeah, Basher's Ghost of New Eden was my 4 point. And it's great. Like it is a game that people completely forgot about. Um, no one is talking about this game during any of their Game of the Year stuff. And it's a solid game that I kind of wish did better. It's got a beautiful narrative, wonderful characters. The gameplay is super good. If you have not played Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, find it on sale or whatever. Play it. It's very long. It's very good. It's worth your money. You also Unicorn Overload, which I talked about before. This is kind of like a Fire Emblem style game with romances and characters, and you can customize their outfits and costumes and colors and all that kind of stuff. And it's just gorgeous. It's so fucking good. It is amazing. That game is so good. First Descendant, if you're looking for a good like Warframe Destiny style game, but you want third person, so you can actually see the skins that you've bought. This game is really good. It plays fantastic. The fights are great. The combat is super good. Caravan Sandwich is my 1 point. This is such a neat game. I would love to see this studio make something else, but I am very pleased with what I played of it. And my number one, my 5 point is Stellar Blade. This game's absolutely great. It's gorgeous. It plays so good. Absolutely fantastic game. Um, our best new IP award goes to Banishers: Ghosts of New Eden. Now we're going to move on to best ongoing game. Let me get you your categories.
thank you.
Ooh, we got to speed through them if you only got that.
Yeah.
Because we still have to do our game of the year.
Yeah, I know. So we'll go quick here. My
Well, let me
for
do for the nominees here, and we'll just kind of go through this very quickly then. This best ongoing game, the nominees are The First Descendant, New World Aeternum, Marvel Rivals, Hunt Showdown 1896, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, Path of Exile 2, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Towerborn, and Helldivers 2. So
yeah,
we have talked about pretty much
most of these
everything
games.
here. I'm not going to talk too much about Hunt Showdown 1886. If you played Hunt Showdown, this is just the new update in the new engine. But Marvel Rivals is the only other thing that we have not talked about here. And spoilers, it takes the category win. This is Marvel meets Overwatch. It works. It looks amazing. The characters are fun. The multiplayer is great. When you want to get into a match, you're in a match within like 15 seconds. It is
Yeah,
unbelievably quick. It's great. It's fantastic. This is a game that
yeah.
you absolutely need to play. It's
It
free to play.
it is outstanding. It's free, and the one thing that really impresses me as well is the battle passes don't expire. And also, there are some egregious microtransaction things, but it's all cosmetic. So if you don't really care about that, then you'll have a great time because Marvel Rivals is fantastic.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, Marvel Rivals takes Best Ongoing Game. Best Sequel is the nominees are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Dragon's Dogma 2, Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, Path of Exile 2, Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga, and Helldivers 2. So we've talked pretty much about everything except for Dragon's Dogma 2. If you played Dragon's Dogma 1, you know you're getting into. I'm gonna have to edit out because I have Hellblade 2 in there 2 times. However, the winner for best sequel goes to Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. Oh wait,
Not
I'm gonna
surprising because we both really enjoyed that game. So
yeah. All right, so we're going to be speeding through these just for the sake of time. Best spin-off title, and the nominees are Metro Awakening, Metal Slug Tactics, The Rogue Prince of Persia, X-Defiant, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. I have X-Defiant in there twice. I'm and A Quiet Place Road Ahead. So we're going to put that there. The winner for this category, once it decides to shuffle back on here, the best spin-off title goes to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Again, absolutely fantastic game. Play it if you get the chance. This game is worthy of your time.
Absolutely.
Awakening, very good VR game. Metal Galactics, if you like Final Fantasy Tactics and you want Metal Slug in that, go for it. Rogue Prince of Persia is an early access. This is kind of like a version of like Dead Cells, essentially, where you're kind of progressing through. And it's solid. It got a new update with a whole new art style, so definitely go and check it out. Best multiplayer, the nominees are Marvel Rivals, Hypercharge Unboxed, The First Descendant, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, New World Aeternum, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, X Defiant, and Helldivers 2. And the winner for this category is Marvel Rivals.
Not
Best,
surprising.
yeah, it is so good. Best podcast game. So this is a game that you can play while you have a podcast going, or you want to listen to something. You don't have to have the audio kind of be the experience for you. Too much, anyways. And best podcast game nominees are New World Aeternum, Caravan Sandwich, Marvel Rivals, Star Wars Outlaws, Expeditions, a Mud Runner game, Balatro, Helldivers 2, Towerborn, Path of Exile 2. So the winner for this one is Marvel Rivals.
Marvel
Um,
Rivals with the sweep.
Taking it. Okay, so here, best female performance. The nominees: Alessandra Mastronardi as Gina from Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Olivia Gray, who played Nora Vanek in Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn, Brianna White, who played Aerith in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Melina Jurgens, Senua from Hellblade 2, Christian Asherton, who played Hulkenberg in Metaphor Refantasio, Hannah Tell played Max Caulfield in Life is Strange Double Exposure, Humberly Gonzalez played Kay Vess in Star Wars Outlaws, and Olivia Abasai, who played Safi Limonel Fayad in Life is Strange Double Exposure. I apologize for mispronouncing that name. The winner for this, and I believe it was unanimous. Let me check it here. 9 points, as Jordan had Melina Jurgens as his top spot. But the winner with 9 points is Alessandra Mastronardi as Gina in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Her performance was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, was.
Best male performance, the nominees are Troy Baker as Indiana Jones in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Clive Standen as Titus in Warhammer 40k, Arthur Lee, Gadriel, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, Jay Rincon, ND5, Star Wars Outlaws, Russ Bain, who played Red Mac Wraith in Banishers, Ghost of New Eden, Marius Gervelis, who played Emmerich Voss in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Stuart Clark, Leon Strahl in Metaphor Refantasio, Kaji Tang, who played Ichiban Kasuga. Gotta get that typo before I miss it. Kasuga, there we are there. Infinite Wealth, and Tony Todd, who played Locus in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This one here was a 10-point answer, and that was Troy Baker as Indiana Jones. That
Well
performance
deserved.
it's a
His
career
best
for him.
performance. Yeah.
Best standout character, Enki, Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, Kitty, Little Kitty Bid City, Gadriel, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, Aerith, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, ND5, Star Wars Outlaws, Emmerich Voss, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Kazuma Kiryu, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Titus, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, and Nyx from Star Wars Outlaws. And the winner is ND5, Star Wars Outlaws. This was such a cool character. He was amazing every single time that he was on screen.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that guy.
I want a video game just with him.
Do it. Do it. Do a match 3. Let's fucking go. All right. Best accessibility. And the nominees are Dragon Age, The Veilguard, Another Crab's Treasure, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, Star Wars Outlaws, The Plucky Squire, and EA Sports FC25. And the winner is Another Crab's Treasure. the accessibility for this was neat because you could just get a gun and then you could just one shoot everything and you
Yeah.
could breeze through the game. And it was super fun because it wasn't just like a little gun; it was like a
And
big
it was
fucking
nice
gun.
to see a Souls-like that actually had accessibility in the game.
Yeah, and like again, like I didn't love the game, but another crowd treasure takes best accessibility. Best early access game. The nominees are Overrider, Hades 2. There's another one I will add once the embargo drops. The Rogue Prince of Persia, Phasmophobia on Xbox and PlayStation, or I think just Xbox, I'm not sure. Towerborn, Path of Exile 2, and No Rest for the Wicked. And the early access game, I think, won by 2 points.
Oh, wow, okay.
Nope, Hades 2 wins by 5 points.
Ah.
So Hades 2 takes the category. Most disappointing game. This is our final category of the evening before we get into our top 10. Most disappointing
Yes.
game, and the nominees are Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, South Park Snow Day, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, Roxy Raccoon, Pinball Panic, Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom, Rugrats, Adventure in Gameland, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that was Jordan, and Dragon's Dogma 2. Here. And yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2. And the winner for this, and most deservingly, is Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League.
Yeah.
This game was garbage. Like honestly, Echoes of Wisdom, very, very close, very close. But Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League was just an abomination of the IP. It was a game that disrupted Rocksteady's kind of reputation. And
Yeah,
honestly,
definitely.
they're a support studio for the Hogwarts Definitive Edition for WB right now. Like Rocksteady was at the top of their game with the Batman trilogy, and honestly, WB's like, hey, just go fucking make Batman. And if they come with Batman Beyond, and they pull off a Batman like Arkham Knight, Arkham Asylum quality version of Batman Beyond, I think that their reputation will be back. But Suicide
Oh,
Squad, Kill
absolutely.
the
It'll be
Justice League,
interesting to see what they have next time
yeah.
around. But Suicide Squad was a massive failure, although we probably should have had Concord with this entire category.
All right. So we
Because,
are going
oh
to
god.
be wrapping up this episode here with our top 10. And I can't remember, how did we do the points for that?
So basically, our 10th placed game will get 1 point,
All
and
right.
our
And the,
first place game will get 10 points.
oh, so it's just basically where they're scored, but the
Yeah.
reverse.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right.
So
So,
it's from worst to best, basically.
yeah. All right. So in my number 10 slot, all right, my number 10 is Astrobot.
Wow, okay. That's lower than I expected.
That's
Wow.
just because the other 9 are just so good, baby.
So that's getting 1 point from Jeff. Well, the game getting 1 point from me is because I haven't been able to finish it, Dragon Age the Velguard.
All right. My number 9 is Dragon Age the Veilguard.
Nice, nice. My number 9, receiving 2 points from me, is Space Marine 2. I really enjoyed it, but I do think there are many games that I played this year that I enjoyed a lot more. So,
All right. See, I thought that one was going to be like right up there. That's where I thought like the tie was going to kind of come into play on that one. But my number 8 is Unicorn Overlord.
nice, nice. My number 8, getting 3 points, is another game that I'm yet to finish just because it's very long. Metaphor Refantasio.
Alrighty. Let me see here. Okay. My number 7. Let me just double check that it's actually on there. Number 7. Yep. Okay. Just making sure the graphics good. My number 7 is New World, Aeterm, getting 4 points.
Nice, nice. So getting 4 points from me is Star Wars Outlaws, which I originally had higher, but I kind of, when I actually remembered some video games, I had to juggle things around a little bit. So Star Wars Outlaws getting 4 points from me.
Okay. My number
6.
6 game is Metaphor Refantasio.
Nice, nice. My number 6, which will be receiving what should be 5 points from me, is Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
Alrighty. My number 5, which will be getting 6 points, is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Nice, nice. My number 5, getting 6 points, is Hellblade 2.
All right. My number 4, which is getting 7 points, is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Okay, okay. My number 4, which is getting 7 points, is Astrobot.
Okay. My number 3, which is getting 8 points, is Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree.
My number 3, which is getting 8 points, is Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree.
Ooh, this might be close. And my number 2, which is getting 9 points, is Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2.
My number 2, which is getting 9 points, is Balatro.
And my number 1 game, my game of the year for 2024, is Stellar Blade, getting 10
And
points.
my number 1, my game of the year, getting the full 10 points, I haven't said it yet, is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Okay, so Indiana Jones. All right, so Indiana Jones is getting, let's see here, 7, so 17 points.
Mm-hmm.
Elden Ring is
Should be on
getting
16.
16 points. Okay. I don't think anything scores higher than that. So I think Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, I believe, is our game of the year based on the points,
Nice.
right? Because
Based on the
Astrobot,
points, as far as I can tell, yeah.
yeah, because
Because
Astrobot is like what? What did you put for
Astro is
Astro?
getting 7 points from me because it's my 4th place.
Yeah, so that's only 8 points. Trying to think what else we shared on this list here.
Metaphor is only getting 3 points from me.
Yeah, so Metaphor is 8 points as well.
Dragon Age only gets 1 point from me. Space Marine 2
So
gets 2
3
points.
So Dragon Age is 3 points. And then
Space Marine
Warhammer,
2 gets 2 points from me.
so that's 11 points. You didn't have Final Fantasy, you didn't have New
I
World, you didn't
didn't.
have Unicorn.
No.
You didn't have Stellar Blade. So yeah, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is Analog Stick Gaming's Game of the Year for 2024. I
And we
already
can
have the
see
graphic
Indy
made.
right above you. Indy is right above you right now.
No, I've literally, like, honestly, like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I've got a graphic already done. I just have to add in your stuff.
Nice.
So like
Jeff knew. We
already
knew
prepped
from
it.
conversation.
Yeah, I already prepped it. Like, honestly, like, if I would have put Elden Ring even one higher, it probably would have taken it.
Yeah. My thing was when I was thinking about it, I almost put Elden Ring in my second slot, and then I was like, no, I'm still playing Balatro. It has to go higher. Like that was the thing that basically changed it. But I do think Indy, based on the entire conversation we've had about the game, is well deserved. There's a reason that it also won both of our best performance categories as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is a well-deserved winner. We will, of course, have all of these awards up on the website analogstickgaming.com. This episode will be going up tonight, which
By the time this
is
episode's up, I will have that up. I just have to basically handle the graphic for your top games.
nice.
I only have to add the other 9.
I will send you my list shortly. But yeah, this episode will be up on the 3rd of January. And then I'm going to tell you now, Jeff, so you can prepare your thoughts. But our next episode is going to be our kind of 2025 preview where we're going to talk about the games that we're most looking forward to in
We
2025.
should get a guest for that to kind of broaden the
Yes, we should.
selection of games and stuff. Just because, like,
And I've
you don't want to
already
be too
been
much of
speaking
a
to a few
echo
people,
chamber.
so you never know who's going to show up. But make sure you're subscribed to find out, because we will be back next week. Gaming was great for the actual video games in 2024, and 2025 is looking like an even stronger year. So please stick with us. Remember to like, subscribe, head over to the website and follow us there. I want to say thank you to
and also
everybody who's helped that grow as well.
Yeah, and for the comments and stuff like that, put the categories in the comments. What were your favorite games of those categories? What was your top 10? Did you disagree with any particular things in regards to what we were talking about? You shouldn't, because our takes are 100% accurate. I don't know why you would even debate that. But honestly, if this podcast has told you anything, go play Ghost or Banishers, Ghost of New Eden. Play this
and
game.
Marvel Rivals.
Very, very good. Play Marvel Rivals and play New World. At level 63, this game is fucking awesome.
And play basically every other game that we mentioned today.
and play Stellar Blade. All right, Eve needs you to get the outfits to dress her up pretty. Honestly, look at the revealing outfit for the Nier DLC, and that will convince you to buy the game.
I own the game, Jeff. I just haven't played it yet. I apologize.
Yeah, you need to.
I will.
I will accept it as your game of the year for 2025. I'm willing to take that burden of a 2024 game winning. I'm fine with it. I'm absolutely fine with it. So
you have real confidence in this video game.
I'm gonna make the graphic now. We're gonna go. Stellar Blade's gonna be your #1 game for 2025. Then Monster Hunter Wilds. Get it? All right. So I'm gonna prepare the graphic already.
Oh, let's not spoil 2025, Jeff. We'll get to that next week. But yeah, for now, I hope you've enjoyed this episode and our Game Awards. We will do this every year, so please join us for it. It will probably be the start of January from now on, actually, because this has worked out quite well for us.
This is just the pre-show. We still have the main show to go. All right, so everybody buckle up. We got another 3 hours. Let's go.
Do we have the Muppets?
I don't have a puppet where I can get to it right now. No, I don't.
Fair. But yes, for now, I hope you've enjoyed that. Please like, subscribe, follow us on the website. Thank you to everyone who's helped our audience on the website grow by more than double in the last sort of 6 months.
Yeah, especially with the our react to the award show. It's like sitting at like 207 views or something like that.
Yeah. So if you have viewed any of our videos, please remember to subscribe, because right now, a lot of you who are watching our videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. But the truth is, if you subscribe, you're going to see our videos pop up as soon as they're there. And also, it does help our channel, because subscriber numbers means that we are able to get easier access to things to cover it for you.
And we're not going to be plaguing your content with like YouTube shorts or anything like that. You're going to basically see like at most 4 uploads pretty much every month. So again,
and you might see the occasional live reaction stream.
Yeah, we're going to try more of those, because that seemed to hit really well. But
and we actually figured out how to do them now on a technical level. So
yeah. No, like honestly, like again, hit us up in the comments and stuff like that. Watch the videos, subscribe,
and let us know what you'd like to see more of as well on this podcast, because we're always open to suggestions. But for now, I will see you next time, and I'll say goodbye from me.